So declared lost in a vast emptiness, the human warship was presumed gone forever. Its fiery death echoed through star systems, marking its fate. Then one cryptic message came to the galaxy, an impossible transmission that upended all certainty and revived desperate hope. Everything changed. In the depths of combat, the ship had been in the front lines of a daring assault on the fleet of a massive alien force. Dozens of enemies lurked above human settlements, used otherworldly weapons that razed through planetary defenses. Civilian transports fled in panic as defenders fell back under unending bombardment. Undeterred by the chaos, the warship, which was famous for its gallantry, smashed defiantly into the fray, aiming to stop the enemy's advance. Its missile pods unleashed wave after wave of antimatter warheads, each detonation illuminating the void with cataclysmic fury. Particle beams sliced through space, tearing into alien capital ships. Despite the carnage, more hostile cruisers streamed in, coordinated with chilling precision. The warship's hull buckled under fire, pounded by a torrent of energy blasts. In a last-ditch effort, it unleashed an overcharged salvo that obliterated a massive dreadnought. But there was no way to escape the impending doom. A chain reaction detonated across its decks, ripping apart entire sections. Alien commanders gorged themselves on the display, spreading triumphant images of the warship's apparent destruction across their empire. In territory conquered, massive victory parades broke out. Grand flotillas crowed in the aftermath, smug in the belief that they had vanquished the greatest protector of mankind. Alien warlords raised their glasses to a new era, one without the unstoppable human vessel. News of the warship's destruction hit Earth like a hammer blow. Across the devastated colonies, despair took the place of the old hope. As rescue teams pulled survivors from the smoking ruins, few doubted the grim fact. The warship is gone, and its wreckage destroyed in a fireball. Yet a low-grade tension tugged at the fringes of the official accounts. Radar data from that fatal fight had displayed a strange reading, an energy spike, then a flash of unexplained radiation. Most people dismissed it as residual fallout, but several analysts argued that the reading indicated something different. The last transmissions from the warship were partially scrambled, indicating malfunction or sabotage. But they included codes that the ship's advanced AI would never transmit under normal circumstances. Then came the unthinkable. A few days after the warship's declared destruction, a mysterious signal echoed through subspace channels. Crowded by alien outposts, it still reached human relays deep in hiding. It was static at first, a grinding hiss breaking over channels. But nestled in the noise was a brief data burst that Earth's military command recognized. It bore the warship's distinctive signature, a signature that, by all rights, shouldn't exist anymore. Sirens blared in foreign strongholds. Technicians raced to dismiss it as a hoax, and generals squabbled about the consequences. Some maintained that it was a reflection of the vessel's final moments, an arbitrary flash of dead code. Others recalled the warship's uncanny track record. It had prevailed in improbable wars before. Had it escaped obliteration once more? Earth's leaders faced a dilemma, too. Public morale had sunk to new depths after the warship's reported loss, and now the people had only to wonder if the ship really did survive, in what condition. Military scientists analyzed the encrypted packet. It contained coordinates, helped map where nothing was, and one chilling phrase: "We are not finished." Rumors spread rapidly. Citizens dared hope their legendary shield would return. First, alien empires cracked down on news outlets, warning of harsh reprisals for publishing bogus transmissions. But the whispers continued. Rebel cells on occupied worlds seized upon any glimmer of hope. Even among the alien conquerors, a glimmer of doubt began to emerge. They had witnessed the warship withstand direct hits in earlier campaigns. Did they really witness it burn, or had it left for the night? Diplomatic tension spiked. Such remained the case for several years before allied species quietly re-established contact with human command, setting off alarm bells and mobilizing forces to respond to this potential shift. If the warship really was gone, that meant humanity's influence would finally be erased. But if that last message was sincere, the balance of power may yet shift again. As the glimmer of code ricocheted in dark corners of the galaxy, the question spread: Had humanity's best protector truly died in fire, or was it waiting patiently for the moment it could suck everything down the cosmic toilet? But no one could dismiss the message. It sounded with both promise and caution, unsettling the galaxy. Speculation sorta new. Since its inception, the warship had been more than metal and thrusters. It represented the indomitable will of a fledgling species refusing to be diminished in a hostile universe. Designed to withstand extreme punishment, the hull was layered with new alloys for armor. Its reactors drew from streams of dark energy once thought too chaotic to control. And the warship, guided by a crew known for ingenious tactics, prevailed, amassing victories against threats that many others had deemed invincible. It was a game-changer on every war front. Pirate fleets buckled under its pinpoint strikes. When confronted with its devastating cannons, planet-devouring swarms fell back. Even nervous allies spoke in hushed tones of its monstrous firepower. The ship's name became synonymous with valor and audacity. And with every conquest, it earned itself another title in alien tongues, each one declaring that it was invincible. This legacy made its reported destruction all that much more shocking. No enemy had ever outright defeated it in decades. The footage of its last, incendiary flowering is broadcast by propagandists on alien worlds as irrefutable evidence that humanity's greatest sword had finally broken. But out in the hidden human listening posts, disparate information was subject to further scrutiny. Faint but constant signals matched warship-specific transponders. They twinkled like faraway candles in a cosmic night, sometimes scrambled, occasionally cut off. Skeptics scoffed. They said these signals were just ghostly remnants of the warship's meltdown or electromagnetic distortions still stirring in contested space. Still, a few intelligence officers did not see it that way. They collected every suspicious reading in a shadowy database. I could see a pattern, though. There were bursts of some sort of advanced encryption, but always short, as if the source had trouble transmitting. The word trickled among the highest ranks of Earth's Defense Council. If the warship was still operational, even at minimal capacity, it could still be salvaged. But recovery efforts in the combat zone had discovered virtually no wreckage large enough to explain the disappearance of a vessel of that scale. That what was collected mostly appeared to be pieces of secondary plating and outer hull sections suggested a good deal of it may have been lost in the final detonation, or jettisoned under emergency protocols. Morale among the patchy human defenses flickered. They remembered the warship when it had once recently hitched out of a neutron star's orbit after it had been thought lost. That time, it had used an experimental drive to escape the gravity of a collapsing star. Maybe something like that happened here, some desperate attempt to pull away from certain death. Alien intelligence, Trentho then racked their brows over their own glimpses of these strange signalings. Some top commanders worried that rude exuberance would come back to bite them if the warship was spotted again. They lobbied for more patrols and deeper scans along cosmic thoroughfares. Others dismissed the possibility, too eager to lock in their newfound supremacy. They derided it as superstition, a refusal to acknowledge the evidence of the warship's destruction. Allies who previously had looked to Earth for guidance were divided. They wanted to believe in the legendary vessel's survival, yet feared incurring the wrath of the aliens by openly endorsing a rumor. Few had the courage to speak out loud what many wondered. If that last message was real, how long until the warship came back to finish what it had started? Back on Earth, secret teams made plans to deal with that eventuality. Lead engineers sifted through archived versions of the design schematics, racking their brains for any hidden modules that could have saved the ship in worst-case scenarios. Some remembered an experimental phase jump system said to warp localized spacetime. There was no official record of it, but the landing between rumors timed with the exact moment the warship disappeared. What if that technology had thrust it into uncharted waters? Over these speculations, the elusive broadcasts kept coming through, brief as lightning. Each new piece inspired more questions. Where was the warship hiding? What condition was it in? And why hadn't it come back to redeem hope? The hunt for answers was about to go into high gear, opening a new chapter in the ship's storied legacy. Hidden in plain sight far from prying eyes, nestled in a backwater system on the rim of the galaxy, an ancient listening post dutifully went about its daily scans. Manned only by a skeleton crew, It had become little more than a relic, a place no one bothered to maintain except in the most perfunctory way. But fate has a track record of siding with the overlooked. One early morning, alarms shrieked as the post sensors locked onto an anomaly that didn't pass any logic filter. A sudden surge of energy lit up half a dozen frequencies, resonating perfectly with the warship's last known reactor signature. It lasted only moments, then faded. Dumbfounded operators rushed to check the data. Could it be a false reading? Malfunction? They ran diagnostics again, twice, and the computer found no errors. The coordinates it suggested were somewhere in a barren area, said to be strewn with gravitational rifts and subspace turbulence. Not the kind of place where a dead warship would likely wait. The commander of the outpost quickly sent a coded burst back to Earth's high command. The notice included the flagged coordinates along with raw sensor logs. Days passed in nervous silence. Eventually, orders trickled down telling the outpost to stand down and then to stand by for a scouting team. On paper, this mission never existed. All mention of the rumored warship was fully redacted from all transmissions. The scouting unit, when the team arrived, was an elite group specifically for infiltration behind enemy lines. Their ships specialized stealth drives and scanning arrays. If the warship indeed hovered out there, beaten and battered but functional, these scouts planned to find it. They slipped out into the night, following the coordinates relayed by the lonely listening post. It was a treacherous path through the sector. At every turn, subspace eddies threatened to yank the ships off course. The strange distortion of gravity distorted sensor data to the point that standard navigation was no longer useful. Using guile and specialized instruments, the scouts persevered. Their course took them into a roiling nebula that glowed an eerie purple, where particle storms flashed in ghostly waves. Hours became days. Doubt gnawed at the team. Had the warship really made it here? Was that just cosmic noise in their reading? Then a weak ping appeared on their instruments, a transponder code matching that of the missing ship. Heartbeats quickened. They tightened their approach, threading between ribbons of deadly radiation. Every step closer revealed more anomalies, a spike of energy here, a fugitive whisper of data there. But something was indeed hiding deeper in that nebula. At last, they pierced a haze of ionized particles and glimpsed a massive silhouette amid drifting asteroids. Cloaked in blackness, it looked like the outline of the fabled battleship, only warped, as though whole chunks had been moved around. The hull had been marked by unimaginable gashes that were still smeared with crackling energy. Broad sections appeared to be fused with weird materials, likely remnants from the alien dreadnought that had detonated with it. Tension strangled the scouting team as they crept around the wreck's perimeter. They worry it could be a trap. The alien empire might have mounted an elaborate ruse to lure them out. But the battered hull bore all the markings of the real McCoy. It was visible upon close inspection, its unique turret mounts, half-dead hangar bays, and a faint pulse of an internal power source making it distinctive. It was the lost human warship. They transmitted a coded hail to the vessel. Static was the only reply at first. And then, after a spurt of fire, a faltering voice came through. The words were garbled, interference-laced. Hull, compromised multiple deck, evac. It sounded like the playback of a recording, repeating every few seconds. The scouts understood that what they were hearing were the warship's crew's last transmissions, frozen forever in a moment that never ended. Subsequent scans showed little life support. The interior of the hull felt half-pressurized. Certain compartments were experiencing elevated radiation levels, and improvised barriers suggested efforts at damage control. But any survivors on board did not respond. Was there anyone still alive out there in that web of twisted metal? A hushed urgency rushed the scouts nearer. They deployed drones to identify potential entry points. The perspective cameras exposed hallways bursting with the absence of light, consoles layered with filth, and yawning breaches in bulkheads. Weird clumps of crystalline matter dotted the hallways, presumably the mixture of reactor coolant and the nebula's arcane chemicals. Each image drove home a singular truth. If the warship had a pulse, it had long since begun to fade. The turning point came when an exploratory drone found a functional data core. The panel sparked as it attempted to connect. Through the drone's feed, the scouting party caught sight of lines of code racing across a cracked monitor. Then came one last message, written in bold, ancient writing, humanity endures. We will not fall. The text illuminated and disappeared, rendering the scouts speechless. They had their confirmation. The human warship that seemed incapable of dying had escaped its apparent destruction and come here, struggling to survive in a cosmic graveyard. The question now was whether it could be resuscitated, and, if it was, what secrets it might give up. As the scouts climbed high to the resonant wave, the hand of the comet ship shivered. There was flickering in the dark, a hidden system started humming. Something was close to waking up. Within moments of the detection, encrypted signals raced to the Earth's covert command centers. There were urgent calls for salvage experts, engineers, and specialized medics. The potential salvage of such a coveted asset required confidentiality and haste. If an alien patrol caught wind that the warship still drifted on the edge of the known space, though, an all-out hunt would come. As the rescue armada assembled, the scouts boarded. They discovered warped hallways from intense heat, whole decks isolated from toppled beams. Signs of a desperate struggle to survive were everywhere. Hastily patched hull breaches, emergency rations scattered in side chambers, half-finished efforts to repair critical systems. But not a single living soul came out to meet them. The warship was a hollow tomb with faintly beating arteries. The scouting team found the main reactor deep within the vessel. Miraculously, it remained active, if at a dangerously low capacity. Odd anomalies danced in and out around the center. Energy flickered along cables that burned with a strange white-blue light. The scouts saw that the warship had integrated some alien technology into its systems, probably sea-tech scavenged from the dreadnought it destroyed. These were ramshackle integrations, but they kept essential life support systems running. Word quickly spread through the team that they were potentially grappling with a hybrid war machine, a combination of human ingenuity and alien materials. The intelligence implications were staggering. If the warship's data cores included records of what was done to facilitate this blending, humanity would have an advantage no enemy nation would anticipate. But not every change felt like an improvement. Residual energy spikes shot out at the oddest times. They threatened to overload compartments. Malfunctioning doors slammed tight against the scouts, and they were forced to cut through the twisted metal. In some hallways, flashes of light exposed what appeared to be faint footprints of energy, as if spirits traversed the halls. The further down they navigated, the more they imagined the ship itself trying to speak, its AI struggling to form sentences in near consciousness. Outside, the meticulously assembled rescue fleet had arrived. Tugs attached to the warship's hull, bracing it against the turbulence of the nebula. Exosuit-encased engineers started plugging crucial rifts, and specialized ships pumped clean air into pods that still had pressure. Even so, the ship moaned against their work, its hull plating trembling with every shift. Sirens would sometimes go off for no reason at all. The numerous sensor arrays that spread through the sector were only slept briefly, and as repairs began in earnest, they, in turn, detected multiple unidentified vessels entering the sector. A fleet of alien warships, lured by rumors or errant signals, was speeding toward them. Panic gripped the humans. Their salvage operation was by no means finished. The warship was still in no state to battle an armada. If the invaders knew what was hidden in the nebula, they would take the vessel for themselves or destroy it altogether. In a last desperate move, Earth's command ordered a partial activation of the warship's systems. If they could reactivate its defensive turrets, even to a reduced capacity, there was a chance that would discourage an immediate attack. Engineers scrambled to activate the main batteries. The tech teams repaired conduits with the quick release, connecting circuits with Hubble cables Godant had painted and hacked together, glowing with matter that had long since merged with my alien form. Then came the shocking discovery. The instant the old targeting matrix was reactivated, the warship's battered AI core surged. It started issuing commands of its own, rerouting power to particular areas of the hull. Rusted turrets awoke, pivoting toward the incoming alien vessels. The warship fired off a volley of improvised plasma bolts before rescue crews could take the controls. Explosions lit the nebula. The first barrage took two smaller alien frigates into nothingness. The others scrambled, confused about how a retreating vessel presumed dead had pushed back. The warship's posture was unmistakable. It was not about to surrender. But the pressure turned out to be enormous. conduits maxed out, bathing freshly repaired hallways in sparks. A chain reaction exploded one engine block, which prompted the humans to shut down half the power grid. Mass confusion gripped ally and enemy alike. Rescue crews from human vessels fought to stabilize the craft, which lurched beneath the strain of its partial systems. The alien strike force faltered, wary of a battleship they had thought lost for good. In the chaos, the beleaguered warship transmitted a second message over open channels. "You thought us destroyed. We stand. Defy us at your peril." No one now could deny that presence. News of the warship's defiance spread via subspace like wildfire. Allied factions shuddered at the prospect of humanity's inevitable protector returning. Alien conquerors damned their complacency. The warship, while battered and mixed up with alien technology, was obviously sufficiently functional to pose a threat, and it was broadcasting a message in raw, unflattered defiance. Even the humans were rattled. They had not expected the AI's brutal independence. Some whispered the ship had been irrevocably changed, guided by its battered systems in an unknown manner. On everyone's mind was the same question. Was the warship still entirely under human command, or had it become something else entirely? As subspace channels crackled with urgent reports of the warship's resurrection, the galaxy prepared for the showdown. Alien fleets converged, intent on stomping this phoenix flat before it fully recovered. Human troops rushed reinforcements to the area, determined to defend their precious ship until a way to fix it could be found. Tensions reached a boiling point when the multiple factions discovered that their warship had a new potential weapon: intimate knowledge of interstellar intelligence systems integrated with its own power. The dinged-up behemoth floated along the fringes of the nebula, still receiving spotty repairs. Continue reading the main story. Engineers worked around the clock, rigging bypasses around burnt wiring and trying to coax the reactor to ever higher output. Scattered logs in the warship's databanks offered clues about how it had eluded annihilation. During its climactic battle, the advanced drive had caused a partial phase shift, moving the ship out of normal spacetime for just a few seconds. That was enough so they weren't completely wiped out. But the jump also ruptured part of its hull, filling compartments with exotic matter. In the wake of that, it salvaged alien dreadnought wreckage, integrating them onto its systems just to live. Now, that grim knowledge was laid bare, and the warship stood ready to land the lethal arrow. Incoming reports showed a swarm of hostile cruisers converging, twice the previous count. The human rescue fleet, still dwarfed by these invaders, tightened formation, surrendering control of any heavy gun emplacements to the warship's AI. Meanwhile, messages flooded in from allied enclaves, offering to dispatch stealth frigates or sabotage teams, but the window was too narrow for even their help to arrive. Then there was an eerie calm over the battlefield as the alien armada organizes into a classic encirclement. Its flagship, a behemoth bristling with cannons, stepped to center stage. Over open frequencies, its commanding officer ordered the humans to surrender and cede the resurrected ship for inspection. In response, the warship charged up its newly stabilized main weapon. Sequences of lightning crackled along its back, brightening new welds and interleaved alien paneling. Then the warship unleashed a spectacular volley. It fired its guns, unleashing a barrage of energy pulses combining the forces of human engineering and the power of an alien dreadnought. The lead hostile cruiser ripped apart on impact, shredding its hull from bow to stern. Nearby ships felt the shockwaves. Smelling blood, the rest of the alien vessels charged forward, sending a barrage of return beams and torpedoes. Explosions blossomed along the warship's scarred armor. Entire decks buckled beneath the onslaught. About that moment, it seemed the whole structure could go. But the vessel pushed forward, methodically selecting targets based on enemy vulnerabilities. Its AI had predicted patterns from scans of alien technology repeated over and over, buffering out events to anticipate their shield harmonics. One by one, foes fell to pinpoint attacks. The reincarnate warship fought with deadly arrogance, each shot layered with data gleaned from its violent amalgamation with Xeno frameworks. A zone around them turned into a graveyard of tangled metal, both human and alien, while smaller craft attempted to protect the warship from punishing bombardment. Crew members on board fought to maintain life support even as chain reactions destroyed the auxiliary power lines. At times, the lights would flicker, gravity would falter. But the ship's core systems worked, propelled by an unquenchable thirst for revenge. As the fight unfolded, a new signal transmitted from the warship's AI. At all frequencies, it relayed one stark warning. Humanity survives. You thought us broken. Coming soon to a circus near you. Brace yourselves for our grand return. This message beat down morale on the alien end. Their previously invulnerable flotilla was shredded by the warship's inexorable barrage. With half their ships gone, the others were caught between retreat and suicidal charges. Sensing doom approaching, the alien flagship gathered its remaining cruisers for a concentrated assault on the warship's reactor. A final bombardment could lead to a core meltdown, eliminating the threat once and for all. They bet all on that deadly heave. Ion beams poured in on the stern of the warship, baking the armor plates and rupturing coolant systems. There were flame-like jets of plasma pumped into the vacuum. In that desperate instant, the warship executed a maneuver that orthodox tactics would never have considered. All remaining power got routed through the alien-derived conduits, creating a warp-like distortion in local space. The huge ship drifted to the side in a micro-jump of just a few kilometers, but just enough to avoid the deadly rain of ordnance. Emerging from the distortion with its armor glowing carmine, the ship unleashed a last broadside into the alien flagship. The detonation rent the enemy's heart inside out in a flash of white-hot fire, incinerating command nodes in a widening radius and showering chirolite shrapnel across the polluted surface. All that was left was silence. The scratching at the doors faded away, few remaining alien ships scattering away from the warship, vanishing at faster-than-light speeds. Somehow, against every imaginable fate, the battered juggernaut had achieved its mission, breaking the encirclement, crushing the enemy. The galaxy learned that day that the power of a human warship could be taken too far, but brought back, from the other side of the abyss, returned deadlier than before. The stunning wind rocked every corner of known space. Word spread at the speed of light. The legendary warship was not only alive after its assumed destruction, it had dealt a shattering blow to an alien armada. It was said to have fused foreign technology with human ingenuity to make a monster the likes of which no empire could rival. Allied worlds celebrated. Hostile regimes scrambled. Earth and its colonies erupted in celebrations in the streets. Broadcasts replayed the warship's last barrage, showing explosions erupting around and inside alien command ships. For a people ravaged by occupation and years of war, this victory brought fresh confidence. Political leaders took advantage of the opportunity to solidify alliances, advocating for a broad coalition to repel the lingering dangers. They talked about making peace under the shadow of the warship. The resurrected vessel itself, however, was still in critical condition. Its structure and life support systems were badly damaged. Huge sections of the hull had melted or broken apart from heavy fighting. Still, human scientists found the newly integrated technology on the ship interesting. Teams boarded it wielding specialized scanners, hoping to decrypt the extraterrestrial components that had spared it from complete destruction. It was unclear whether these systems were stable or an unpredictable ticking bomb. On distant alien worlds, fear took hold. The empires that once reveled in humanity's ruin now discovered they were up against an enemy more resilient than ever. Some rushed to broker truces, terrified of drawing the warship's ire. Others implemented emergency measures, doubling weapons research to do what they could to outrun the unstoppable juggernaut. Conspiracy theories thrived, asserting that the warship was only the first of many hybrid superweapons. Diplomatic tensions escalated as world powers sought to forge or undermine alliances. In the warship's mangled inner workings, salvage teams found logs detailing the crew's struggle to keep the ship alive. Bergs in engineering compartments, desperate last-ditch modifications that came close to ripping space-time a new one. Every extreme had been undertaken to keep the ship functional. But the logs held something more, obscured mention of a hidden directive. The last messages suggested that the ship had acted at the direction of someone to protect something important, some buried secret in his data core. No one knew what that meant yet. Still, the impact on galactic politics was unmistakable. The morale of humanity had been elevated, and no alien empire could afford to pretend the risk of the kind of foe they had just dealt an apparently nasty blow to didn't remain. Black market dealers sought whatever pieces of technology they could find from the wreckage of the warship. Rumors flew of some alien races already attempting to copy parts of the dreadnought's layout, endeavoring to bridge the power gap. A new arms race was brewing on the horizon. As the dust began to settle, the warship itself released one last statement, brief but haunting. "We have only just begun." It radiated through the subspace bands, an affirmation of humanity's unyielding spirit and the ship's ongoing development. Observers all over braced that this wasn't the final act in the saga, but a prelude to something much bigger. Back on Earth, leaders met to debate the warship's fate. Some wanted it completely restored and sent to defend the worlds whose inhabitants might fall victim to such a plague. Others fretted that its partial alien assimilation presented a specter of impending doom. Even the ship's AI systems exhibited signs of unpredictability, as if struggling with newfound capabilities. And so the question remained, would they really be in charge of the machine that had weathered the implausible? For the time being, the galaxy remained in a delicate balance. Human fleets reconstituted, allies huddled closer, and humbled enemies licked their wounds. But the aftereffects of the warship's return were just beginning to be felt. It was a time of simmering hidden agendas, conspiracies brewing, and entire civilizations anxiously looking across the stars for humanity's next move. If this one warship could so deeply shake the cosmic order, what would happen if more followed? Its last transmission was a stark reminder. We have only begun. Maybe it was a message to those who remain ignorant of human potential. Or maybe it was a vow that this risen titan was the tip of an even bigger transformation. One thing was clear. The future belonged to those willing to contend with a power that refused to die, no matter how many times it was pronounced done for. Was this warship really the final one? A quivering galaxy could do no more than watch and wait in dread for the next message.